Hello and welcome to part 2 in my Masterpiece discussion series. Moving on from my Season 1 More Than Meets the Eye Autobots cast, I'm going on to the third shelf in my Detolf, which is the Season 3, well actually movie cast, Autobots cast. Now there are a few omissions from this at the moment, a few spaces I wish were filled, but to be completely honest with you, the figures haven't really emerged that fulfill my aesthetic requirements, so I'm waiting on other releases. I'll discuss that as we go along, but for now, let's start here with everyone's favourite Junkion leader, Retgar, represented here by KFC's Crash Hog. Now this is a great little figure, I think, or well, not so little actually. It comes with a lot of accessories, has a really good sculpt. It's not completely toon accurate, but it's toon accurate enough. And yeah, I really like it. I kind of bought it on a whim. I wasn't intending to get it, but then I wasn't intending to get Season 3 characters. And I wasn't ever intending to get Autobots, so, you know, best intentions and all that. Now, excuse the phone going off. I really do like the figure. I have a few issues with the mould. It's a bit tricky to transform, especially around the handlebar area. But I just play in bot mode, so I'm not really terribly worried about that. It's got some good range of motion, nice articulation, strong ratchets. I think it's really a really good representation of the character. And obviously, I haven't faction symboled him up because he's not an Autobot technically. I also, at the same time, picked up his counterpart, Dumpyard, which I think is Junkyard in canon. And I got this one because I just thought, well, I wanted to have a couple just for symmetry. And I really like the way it looks as well. I think this is a nice character. I like the spikes. I like the slightly different deco, the tyres on the legs and things. I know that KFC are actually releasing a bunch of these guys, but to be honest with you, I think I'm done. I don't need a whole troop, sort of troop building exercise like an army of Junkions. I'm not really that invested in them as characters. It's mainly just Retgar, and I got this guy on a whim, really. They cost quite a lot. They're 70 odd quid a pop, so I don't think I can justify spending any more money on them, especially as my Autobots already outnumber my Decepticons. So I think I'm done with Junkions, but I'm glad to have them both. They both look good. Moving on, we come to Fans Toys Hoodlum, which is their version of Hot Rod. And I have a love-hate relationship with this character, I tell you. Now, I think it was MP28 was the Dakara version. I didn't really like that. The alt mode looks good. Some of the bot mode stuff's not too bad, but he's too short and he's got a lot of weirdness. This looked great and in renders, and then when it actually came out, it had a litany of issues. I mean, where do I start? I mean, for starters, like I'll tell you what, I'll do the things I like first. I like the tapered chest. I think that looks a lot better than the Dakara. I like the lower half of the figure. I think that looks good. I generally like the colour scheme, even though it's still not right. It should be a lighter sort of magenta pink colour. Face sculpt's not too bad. But what I don't like, oh god, well, for starters, in that area, the crest at the back is too low. His shoulders by default are too high. I actually haven't pegged them in properly, so I can lower them, but by standard they're actually as high as his head, which they shouldn't be. The vents on his shoulders have got purple magenta tabs in them, which they shouldn't have. They should be coloured differently or just make a better design choice. The forearms are massively beefy compared to his fists. I mean, his head as well, it can't look up. I mean, you know, if you've ever watched Shaun of the Dead, but I'm just thinking, you know, Big Al at a point. It's just ridiculous that a Masterpiece figure can't look up, especially when it's a Masterpiece figure that's famous for one scene in the movie appearance where he looked up with goggles, with a visor that this figure has, and said Decepticons and shot at a shuttle. You can't emulate that pose with this figure unless you take a tool to the figure and drill or scrape out part of the head, which I'm not going to do. I mean, also the collar, look at that. What an abortion that is, to be honest. I mean, that should all be one piece, should be better designed. It doesn't even look like the toon. The fact that it's also got out of the box paint chipping, because they've used paint on die cast and it hadn't cured properly and it rubs against other die cast. I'm lucky that I'm a bot mode guy, so mine doesn't look it, but if I transformed it, my alt mode would have paint chipping on the hood. I'm not happy about that. I haven't, it's not my fault, it's a design fault. It just looks like this figure was designed years ago and never updated. So it's a bit of a lazy attempt by Fans Toys, but to be honest, that's kind of what they're becoming synonymous with in my eyes. I mean, it's all right. It fills a gap. The scale's better with the other Masterpiece Season 3 movie bots. But yeah, I still think there's better to come, really. Moving down here, we have Fans Toys Rouge. It's their take on RC, which again, I do like this figure. It's flimsy and has a load of issues, QC issues. Mine had paint issues and other things out of the box. I actually got a bit of a reduction, a bit of a cash back on it. I got 10 quid reduction off eBay from the seller. But oh god, it looks the part. It really does. None of the Azalea, the MMC version, just looks like shit compared to this, to be honest. This is really nice. I really like this figure. I think that I can't see anyone releasing a better looking figure. I mean, it has a few issues. I just think aesthetically it's spot on. Look at that. I mean, that's brilliant. It comes with a nicer bunch of accessories. All right, the transformation's a complete bitch, and the backpack's a bit of a nightmare, but other than that, it looks great. And I'm really happy I picked it up. It's reasonably priced as well. I forgot to mention Hot Rod's Nebulum partner, Firebolt, I believe. And also the fact that I've got Daniel sat on his shoulder there. Oh, and Daniel in his exosuit there, which is obviously a Bumblebee accessory. And here we have Wheelie, which is probably the worst figure that I own, I have to say. I mean, it looks great, don't get me wrong. I think aesthetically it's brilliant. But what a shitty transformation. It's so flimsy as well. It feels like it's going to fall apart, and like paint is going to scratch. And this is the V3, for God's sake. God knows what the V1 was like. But it does look nice. I think it really does. I mean, the G1 toy was a fucking abomination. Let's be fair. It was like I think it was pretty tied with Ironhide and Ratchet for being the worst Transformers toys I owned, in terms of the resemblance to the toon or cartoon, or comic. This is light years beyond that. It really does evoke memories of the movie version of the character, and I really like it. Visually, I just think it's a bad figure in terms of design and engineering choices. Moving down, excuse the camera work, we come to, I forget what he was, MP22 maybe, Ultra Magnus. I think he looks great, but he's too big. Too big. I just think that, I mean, I can see why he is, because obviously they had to engineer it so that he could transform from one contiguous piece into like a robot. You know, he's got his trailer and everything's integrated. But I just wish he was a little bit shorter, because you look at him next to another leader and he should be at least, well, I'd say half a head shorter than that, really, for scale, if not more. But other than that, I mean, he still looks great. I think the figure itself looks awesome. And I've got old Spikes out on his shoulder there. It's good face sculpt. It's beefy. His articulation's a little bit limited, just judging, like, owing by his size, really, or owing to his size. And he has a ridiculous butt flap. Again, I think that's lazy on Takara's part, because third parties engineered a solution for that, so it folded away. Just lazy on Takara's part, you know. It's not a cheap figure either. I think it's 120 quid this cost me. But I really do like it. I think it looks awesome. And he goes up against his Decepticon counterpart, which pretty well, which I'll cover in the Decepticon video. Over here we have Rodimus Prime, the Takara reissue, the V3. Nice figure. Some issues with it, obviously. Everyone knows the problems with this mould, but I think it looks really good, to be honest. I like the colours far more than the Hasbro release. They fixed some of the issues with it anyway with this. I mean, it's still, I know someone could do a lot better if they tried, but I like the way it looks in robot mode. I'm not going to use the hot rod gimmick. I'm never going to transform it into a Space Winnebago or whatever it is. I just like him to stand there looking badass next to Magnus. And eventually he will stand next to Cup and Springer when X-Transbots release theirs. I think Locke and I can't remember, Virtus or something like that. I forget what they're called. But they look to be the best versions. I don't like the fans' toys or the MMC versions or any of the other versions really of those figures. And also I will get fans' toys Jabba though, because he does look to be the best. Then those three will slot in here with these two and complete my Autobots Season 3 lineup. I will then, be a happy man. I can retire from Season 3 purchasing because I've no interest in any of the other Season 3 characters. It was really only movie characters that I like, and these guys fit the bill nicely. Right, well that concludes part 2, which was significantly shorter than part 1, but I'll be back with a part 3, which is going to look at some of the random Season 2 Autobots that I own before we move on to the Decepticon element. Thanks for listening and watching, I guess.